I remember every day having these thoughts. Every time he talked to me, I was just like, why are you opening your mouth to me?
Who?
My partner who cheated on me. He would talk to me because we lived together. And I'd be like, why the fuck are you even talking to me right now? I was so irritated by his existence. And I remember he would leave the room and I would sit there and I'd be like, can you do this forever?
Yeah.
Are you willing at the time I was 26? At 26 years old, are you willing to live your life getting physically nauseous at the sight of your partner's face?
We go back, like way back, 21 years back. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Kelly. And we have been friends long enough to know that that kind of connection is rare.
We've recognized a pattern that we can come together feeling overwhelmed and jaded by life, but can walk away from our conversations feeling elevated and fulfilled. Our goal is to have our listeners share in that experience with each episode.
This podcast is our love letter to each other. It has been years in the making, and finally the stars have aligned, and we like to open up our conversations to you. We intend to build a community where no topic is off the table.
In a world where discomfort is actively avoided, therapy is not accessible to many, yet you should talk to a therapist, is a reflex response that denies connection. We have found that talking it out has been a form of free therapy in itself.
We dive into topics like death, divorce, disordered eating, debt, and every taboo topic in between, all while balancing the scales with our tongue-in-cheek humor.
With that, who's ready to get taboo?
Okay. Hopefully Polly can splice, I thought our ketchup in the beginning when we first started was really cute. And then it never recovered after that. Do you think maybe she could edit the ketchup in?
No, I deleted them.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't have storage to hold on to all this shit, so
yeah, no, that's
we got to
fair.
come up with it again.
Oh, a ketchup?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to do my nail thing again.
All right. Do the bit.
Do the bit.
Okay, how you been?
I've been okay. I've been good. I've actually been great. It's been a solid summer. I want to take this moment to address the elephant in the room, and that is my fingernails.
Oh my God.
My fingernails are traffic cones. I broke a nail and my OCD couldn't handle it. So I emergency situation went to my usual nail salon that never gives me what I want and never has me leaving satisfied, and was like, help me. 911.
You know, that's the definition of insanity. To keep going back to the same place, expecting a different result.
Right. And here's the thing is that has happened repeatedly through my life. So I've just embraced the insanity. So I almost feel like I shouldn't be complaining.
Oh, good Lord.
But when my nails are this orange, they're orange. I asked for red. I said cherry red. I want cherry red nails. I picked them out on they have like a little freaking board. Boom, bright cherry red, a little pop of color for summer. And it's a dip, right? First of all, I asked for squoval nails. They're too square. I'm stressed. And as she's dipping, it looks red, but every layer, it's starting to look more and more orange. And I'm like, excuse me. She's like, no, it turns out red. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say, lady. And by the end, my fingers were I don't know, traffic cone. It's not jack-o'-lantern. It's too highlighter, right? It's more of like, I'm here to land planes at PDX Airport. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not good. And I'm a hand talker. So throughout this episode, I'm like, do I sit on my hands? I
think that's the solution.
Maybe,
put them away.
Maybe it'll make it less obnoxious, but I just really feel like it's what everyone's going to be thinking about.
This, I think.
Okay. That was a little too harsh, but I'm going to work through it. So I'll be sitting on my hands the whole time.
Thank you.
It's going to last about 3 seconds. Let's be real, but it's fine. We'll just, nobody has to look at these fucking fingernails. And I promise next time you see me, they won't be orange.
And we're not going back to the same place.
Yeah. I feel ashamed. It's almost like I have a toxic relationship with the nail salon though, where I'm like, this time it'll be okay. I'm waiting for the nail salon to get better.
Yeah,
I'm just they'll change. I swear.
That's the lie we tell ourselves.
They'll get better.
That's the lie. Yeah. That's my favorite lie to tell myself. They'll change.
Yeah, they'll change. Maybe that's on theme with our episode today. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's get taboo.
Let's get taboo.
Let's talk cheating.
Have you, you know, all aspects of it.
All aspects. Have you been cheated on? Have you cheated? What we think of cheaters?
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. I feel like we should start by like, what do you think is it about cheating specifically that makes it so taboo?
Well, I think that it's so layered. There's so many parts to it, and it's so societal. It's like such a cultural thing. And I think it kind of comes from, there's a lot of like religious undertones.
Yeah.
A lot of like puritanical undertones. I think, but then I think that there is some truth to like, there is something biologically that we do have a monogamous drive in some ways. I don't think for everyone, because I think that there is like, that's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
You know, but there is something there that for whatever reason
yeah, I mean, I feel like when I think about cheating and why, I mean, I've obviously, like, I've been cheated on before. You've been cheated on before. And I think take out, like, as someone who I didn't grow up religious. I didn't grow up with a religion or a faith or any of that. Yeah. So I think that my views, because I think marriage plays a huge role in what makes cheating so taboo. Marriage is put on this. And I mean, you can probably speak to this better than I can because you've been married before, but you know, marriage, there are these like harsh expectations and so much pressure with marriage from like an outsider's point of view that I think we put it on such a pedestal, and it is so like sacred and religious in a lot of ways and holy and all of the things that it's like, if you were to cheat, it's like, it is the worst thing you can do in terms of a marriage, right?
Yeah. Or any relationship. And I guess the point, I want to just like clarify, I guess when I said like the religious undertones, I meant like society, like because our country, our culture is like built and founded off a lot of those principles.
I completely agree.
So I don't think as much like, yeah, I think like growing up like does play like a huge role, like how you're raised. But like, I think just our culture as a whole has so many of those like principles that like we, whether or not like we are religious or grew up that way, we like internalize.
No, we absolutely do. That's what I mean, yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that I think, yeah, regardless of if you're religious or not, marriage is always religious. It was founded around religion. So those puritanical ideas and like cheating being the worst thing that you can do to someone really does come from that place of like, you are breaking a vow. And even if you're not religious, you are taught that like that vow is forever. And so it's like when you cheat, it is truly like you have failed as a human being. Yeah. And that's not to say that cheating isn't awful. I just think it's crazy. Like it's so taboo because there's so much shame around it. And I think that like my goal in talking about it is maybe not normalizing, but bringing to light what triggers people to cheat.
Yeah, I think because when you look at any sort of like maladaptive action or reaction or coping mechanism, it's coming from somewhere, right?
Yes.
It's not just like this arbitrary act.
Yeah.
So it's coming from a need that isn't being fulfilled. Right. So when you look at cheating or like someone who like steps outside the established boundaries of a monogamous relationship, there's something that they're getting from that act that whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether it's a full blown, like it's everything. Right. It's like a full blown relationship, whatever that looks like. There's something within the confines of their monogamous relationship that is no longer serving them, or they're no longer getting their needs met. So they need to go find it somewhere else.
Absolutely. And I wonder, I mean, I think I'm genuinely asking your opinion on this because I think it's so hard. I mean, to put it out, like I've also cheated on someone before. And I think it's hard because you do feel so much guilt and shame, which I think is valid, but also, with your perspective in mind, would you say, like, blanket statement, cheating is a selfish act? That's how I feel about
yeah,
it.
I
It's
think
completely selfish.
Yeah, I completely agree because I've also cheated before and it is from a self-involved place.
100%.
And it's very, it's like self-protective in the way that like you have this need that feels like when it's not met, it's life or death, right? And whether that's emotional, whether that's physical, whether that's both, like you are craving some kind of intimacy.
Yes.
You're not getting it. And to not have that, but also to feel like you can't leave that relationship. It feels like, okay, I have to figure this out. If I can't leave and I can't get it here, I have to get it somewhere else.
Right.
None of those things are true.
Right.
Really.
Right.
Like you can leave.
Always.
You can have that need met somewhere else and you don't have to resort to this like decision.
Right.
But when you're stuck in something, like let's say, I mean, I think like people get into a relationship and then they have like this community that is, you share with that person.
Yeah.
And so if you end that relationship, you are at risk of no longer having community.
You're
and that
hitting,
actually
yes.
biologically we are wired to feel like to experience that as life or death because like when, you know, I don't know, however long ago when we were not living this modern life, if you didn't have a tribe or a community, that you can't survive as an individual.
Right. At the end of the day, humans are built around having community and having people and having your own sort of group following you that you know you follow back. And I think, you know, in my times of when I was cheated on was when my biggest fear was losing that community.
Yeah, exactly.
And here's the thing, it fucking happened.
Yeah.
And that's what's so awful is that whether you cheat or are cheated on, you are without a doubt, your community is at the bare minimum going to be completely transformed forever. It will never be the same because when you cheat, you're not just affecting the person that you cheated on. You are affecting everyone you both mutually associate with, whether that be family, whether that be friends. It's a part of the selfishness of cheating itself. But I think it's also a huge driving factor as to why people don't leave relationships when they should. They let relationships go on too long. A huge driving factor of that is that I don't want to lose my fucking friends.
Well, because that becomes like we're wired to think that that's at risk if we leave this relationship.
Right.
So there's kind of this, even though like, I mean, when does cheating ever work out in your favor? You know, I mean, the thing is, I would say if you can be introspective on the other side or whatever, then there is some benefit to it. And I want to unpack that, but like, really, there's not a lot of like winning there. You like you lose your dignity.
Yeah.
You lose like the trust that people had in you.
Right.
You really lose your self-respect if you even had it in the first place.
There it is.
Yeah. And your relationship is at stake.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think that if you're in a relationship where you do feel the need to like seek out like affection, attention, intimacy with someone else, there's something fundamentally problematic in your relationship that you're in.
And it's on you to communicate those feelings, right? Like if you're feeling like I want attention elsewhere, which up until my current relationship, I think I felt that every single partner I've ever had. And I never once have had that conversation with someone of like, hey, this person flirted with me at work and I felt really flattered. Or, hey, I like this person and I had this like, you know, flirty rapport and exchange and it felt really fucking good.
Yeah. And I want to talk about
like
why I'm like,
can we unpack that together?
Yeah.
You know, like having a foundation with someone that's so solid where you can be that honest. That's how you know you're going to be okay and make it through. And I think that's what does prevent cheating is that it's like, oh, hey, my partner's coming to me and saying like, they're very flattered by this. That must mean that they're lacking something. But if you are like, flirting with someone at work or like you have this exchange or you're seeking out this exchange with another person and you're keeping it to yourself, babe, run for the hills. Your relationship is over. Like that is, I mean, you have to be able to be open about that or it is surefire leading to cheating or something not good with or the relationship eventually falling apart. Like if you don't act on it, that's still like the first step into the relationship not working out. And that's not like a definite every time, but it just, in my experience, like it's a huge red flag.
It's a flag. And it's like to ignore the alarm system.
Yeah.
Like to just shove that and just like, just to quiet it and just like, you just hit the button to like turn off the alarm.
It's just a rough patch. It's fine.
Yeah. Or it's like, everybody has these feelings or whatever it is. I think a lot of times too, when I think people are pushed to the point of cheating, or at least for me, it was like, I was asking repeatedly for these things, but I was continuing to tolerate behavior that never like satisfied what I was asking for.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like I would communicate it, and they'd be like, yeah, okay. And then it just, nothing ever changed, but I also tolerated nothing changing. So what does that communicate? That communicates that like, I don't have any self-respect because I'm like continuing to tolerate something that I don't want. And I've communicated that I don't want, but they also recognize like, well, she's not leaving if I don't change. So
that's true. Yeah.
So then you're trying to like have this met. You don't feel heard. No one, like they're not paying attention. They're not giving you what you're asking for. You don't have any intimacy. And then in my situation, I found myself in a friendship that was like incredibly supportive that very quickly, lit on fire without me meaning to. Right. Like, you know what lyric I always think about that always takes me back to this time is the getaway car. I struck a match and blew your mind, but I didn't mean to. Yeah. Like it really does. It feels that way. Because it's like, it wasn't the intention. It's not what you set out to do, but because you feel so starved, so deprived, and you don't know you're too afraid to do anything about it, and you don't know how else to communicate it. Right. Then that becomes so consuming. It's like such a drug because all of a sudden someone's actually interested in you for who you are. Yeah. You have this connection with them and you can't tell anyone about it except for them. So that only strengthens the bond. Right.
Because it's intimacy that you haven't experienced in so long. There's nothing more intimate than keeping a secret with someone. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It is so binding.
It's so binding. And I also think that a huge part, at least for me, when I cheated, like physically with someone, it was only once. And then I've had an emotional affair before. But, when I had like my physical affair, so much of it was driven from a place of resentment. And I think that it's interesting how I wasn't able to track that. I also was only 19, 20, something like that. But, my needs weren't getting met for very valid reasons, to be honest. On my partner's end, he was halfway across the world for his job. There's nothing we could do about it. And we were separated for a year, and I proposed to us breaking up. And I had no intentions of dating. Like my self-worth was so low. I truly believed that I could never do better than him. He was my first real heavy love. I was so obsessed with him and so just like, yep, this is the person I'm going to marry and have babies with as soon as he gets home from this job. And that I felt comfortable proposing to him as a teenager. I think that we should break up. I'm going to spend the next year. My mom was getting divorced. I wanted to focus on my family and support her and my sisters through that. Figuring out what I wanted to do with school, all of these things. I was going to school out of Portland. And I was like, I'm going to move back home, focus on my family, figure out my shit and what I want to do. And then when you get back in 12 months, let's just get back together. Easy. I knew I wasn't going to do anything with anyone. And he gaslit me and told me I was a selfish, terrible person for that. And that it was selfish to break up with him when he was about to go and do this like big job that was really dangerous. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't want to. And this isn't justifying my cheating, but I stayed in the relationship because he made me feel like a bad person for wanting to do the right thing and call it off. Okay. And then he left and spoke to me twice the whole time he was gone. Oof. He just ghosted me. And I thought it was because the job was so intense and scary and I was so alone. I didn't have my family. I didn't have friends. I didn't have anything. Yeah. And, so then I reached out. I was close with his sister at the time. And I was like, man, are you having a hard time, not hearing from him? I'm so sad without him. I miss him. And she was like, he messages us every day in the family group chat. He talks about how bored he is. If anything, we're like a little surprised at how communicative he's been. And I realized he was just doing it to me because he was an asshole. Like he just didn't love me. Like I wasn't his person, and he just like, and so then I became angry because I'm like, he won't respond to me. Okay. I'm begging for a response, just a little communication. WhatsApp was a thing. Refused to talk to me, but could communicate with his family. And I understood I wasn't his family, but still. And so then I became volatilely angry. Like I tried to end this because I knew you wouldn't be able to handle being in a relationship that was long distance. I was trying to do the responsible thing. I did all the right steps of everything I thought would be the most healthy. And you gaslit me into staying with you and then ghosted me. And so then
motherfucker.
Right, oh my God. And so again, I'm not trying to justify it, but then I met someone who fulfilled every need.
Okay.
Every need. Oh my God. He like, you know, built me up and we spent time together and we had similar interests. And like, I went on dates. I had never gone on dates before. Like it was just the perfect recipe of me being bitter and angry over an abusive long distance relationship and so lonely. And this person coming in and me being like, he doesn't even have the decency to respond. We're not together. Like we're not even talking anymore. This is not a relationship. And everything just happened the way that it did. And we ended up breaking up a month later. So, I mean, you know, he never found out and what the fuck ever, you know, but it's just, I didn't realize that so much of that was fueled from a place of like, I don't want to say revenge, but resentment. I was so resentful that I was in that situation in the first place. And I actively did everything I could to communicate, not wanting to be in that situation because distance is so hard. I don't think distance works very well. I think it takes a lot of work that I'm not saying distance doesn't work ever, but I wasn't in a place to do it. And I was self-aware enough to know that. And so that's not me justifying cheating ever. No, it's just I think that what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way is that I think that resentment in a relationship, especially a long-term one, is something that needs to be checked in on because I think it fuels a huge portion of like couples problems is resentment towards each other. And like, I think that resentment builds really slowly. And I think that it builds
it's sneaky.
Yeah. It's very gradual. Right. So then you can go from like, no, this is fine. This little thing makes me mad. Or like, yeah, that little thing is annoying. And then before you know it, you're ending up like me and like cheating on your partner that you had for multiple years who's like overseas because you're just so angry and fed up with your needs not getting met and doing everything. Like I get the most mad when I do communicate and still my needs aren't getting met. Like I'm doing my part. I'm doing what's expected of me. And that's to talk it out. Kind of like what you were talking about, how it was like you communicated your needs not getting met and like that you needed all these things. And your partner at the time was just like, yeah, okay. It's like, well, if you're not going to like do anything about it, then I'm just going to, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think I should have pieced up.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I was like, well, I guess I'll still stay in this. And then just, well, my needs are getting met here. So.
And that's fine.
And this, you know, is not sustainable at all. But it's like, this is what feels like the only option.
Right.
It's like, okay, this is a little bit dark, but it's like what I imagine people who kill their partners because they like fell in love with someone else. It's like, I just imagine it's like that same thing. It's like that fear of like, you can't actually just leave.
That's
but
scary.
You can.
But you can.
You can. You should. And I think that's like the issue is like you communicated your need. Yeah. It wasn't met. Time to exit.
Right. And that's like taking apart the like remove side of like when people are in like emotionally abusive relationships. That's different. You never want to tell someone that like they can just leave because like that's a whole other issue. Yeah. But when you're like you and I are talking about a whole separate thing, I just wanted to clarify that is like I never am going to be like just leave. Everyone has the choice to leave because like if it's abusive, you don't. But I think you and I, we were just in circumstances of like, we didn't have the self-worth to know that like there's a whole life out there beyond this partner that we are settling for.
Yeah. And me like constantly like, did you ever like ask yourself, like, do I have to do, like, should I do this for the rest of my life? Do I have to, like, did you ever have those thoughts of like, wondering if you're settling?
Those thoughts, I just want to say this, maybe this is a hot take, but I don't think it is. Those thoughts are your intuition, and those thoughts are self-preserving. Because in my previous relationship was the longest relationship I've ever had. And he cheated on me, and I caught him and made the stupid fucking choice to try to make it work. It was me just trying to work through the trauma, to be honest, and like catch my breath. But I met someone while we were still together. And this is why I consider it cheating, is because I'm the one that chose to take him back. And then I met someone, was very attracted to them, was talking to them. It was bad. And I remember every day having these thoughts. Every time he talked to me, I was just like, why are you opening your mouth to me?
Who?
My partner who cheated on me. He would talk to me because we lived together, and I'd be like, why the fuck are you even talking to me right now? I was so irritated by his existence. And I remember he would leave the room, and I would sit there and I'd be like, can you do this forever?
Yeah.
Are you willing at the time I was 26, at 26 years old, are you willing to live your life getting physically nauseous at the sight of your partner's face? Yikes, dude. I do think that was intuition. And like, I hate that my toxic trait is that I have to get pushed to that point to finally leave.
Yeah.
I wish I had learned earlier on.
Yeah.
Like there's all kinds of flags before physical nausea that are telling you to leave this person.
Yeah.
So yes, I have asked myself those questions, especially in my previous relationship when I was having an emotional affair. And I definitely, when I got to the point of like just absolutely wanting to have so much sex with that person that I was having the emotional affair with, that was when I was finally like, I can't live my life this way.
No,
I can't just settle for this person who like I fucking hate, who like completely stabbed me in the back. Like, what the fuck am I doing? And that's a question that I think is so great to have, though, is like, can you do this forever?
Yeah, I'm so with you. I had so many of those thoughts where it's like, okay, well, where I would justify it. Like, so I would justify like, oh, well, he's not like, someone who can like have like intellectual conversation, but I can get that from other friends. Like, that's why you have friends, is because your partner can't be everything to you.
Right.
But like, then I would sit there and I'd think like, can I really not have a partner who I can have intellectual conversation with for the rest of my life?
Can I dedicate half of my life to someone that I can't talk to?
More than half. More than half.
Yeah.
You know, like if you like, we're talking someone you met at 19.
Yeah.
To dedicate like the majority of your life to someone who can't fulfill one of your most foundational and basic needs. Not everybody needs to have an intellectual conversation, but me, I do.
You are quite literally a podcaster now. I think that talking is
I'm a professional. So
like, I think that that's a pretty critical one. And isn't that, it's just so sad. Like I think that's the part for me where I have to be gentle with myself. Like I own the fact that I have cheated, and it was a terrible thing to do to a person. Nobody deserves to be cheated on, period. It's on me, and an act of selfishness. But the only thing is that I had to work through so much of that guilt, shame, taboo-ness of being a woman that fucking cheated, because that's never talked about, how it's a completely different experience, and we can unpack that.
Let's unpack it.
I think that where I've been able to kind of forgive myself, to be honest, is that, you know what? I didn't have any self-worth. I did not like myself at all. And so I was so willing to just settle with someone who I knew didn't like me that much, who did not treat me well. I was like, no, but it's fine, because at least he wants me. And that, even a decade later, that is so, oh my God, it's so gross to say out loud, but that was how my brain was.
No, it's so true. I did the same thing. I put my partner on a pedestal. I had convinced myself like he was so well liked. He came from this great family, great community, whatever. I like had all these friends, and none of that was really actually that true. Right. And I had this narrative that I played over and over, that I was a bad person, and it was hard for me to make a good decision. And that I had decided that he never had to, he never struggled to make a good decision. He just was a good human. And
Right.
I was better because I was with him. Like, so by proxy, I was a better person.
Yeah.
But it required so much effort for me.
Right.
Where he didn't have that struggle. I had decided those things.
Right.
And then, I mean, fast forward 5-10 years later. And I mean, that like facade came crashing down.
Yes.
And he became incredibly human to me. And I was like, oh, and by that point, I had actually developed some self-worth.
Yeah.
Where then it was like, oh, you're actually just you're actually a human. Like you're not like so far above me, and I can do better than this.
Right.
And I want better than this.
And I'm not a bad person.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
a human learning.
And that's, I think when you kind of start to develop some self-worth, you recognize that it's not you that's like this like awful, horrible problem. It's that you've had some tough shit that you've had to go through.
Yeah.
And then it makes you not as capable of choosing partners for the right reasons.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree.
And then you end up in like a situation where you feel really trapped.
Yeah.
Because you've convinced yourself you can't do better.
Right. And I do think that what makes you like, I think it's not to be too, I don't know, like existential here. I thought I was going to lose that word, but we got it back. Not to be too existential of like, what is a good person? What is a bad person? But I think I learned from my cheating experience that, everyone has a little bit of good and bad in them, and to label yourself as a bad person, especially like so early in life, is kind of crazy. Like you have to give yourself an opportunity to learn and grow. And I think where you go down a path of true darkness is if you aren't learning from those devastating mistakes you've made. At the end of the day, cheating will fuck a person up. Like being cheated on fucks you up. And I think to be someone that has been on both sides of it, you know, I feel a lot of shame for my lack of empathy and compassion and consideration for the other person. And I think that goes for anyone that's cheated. Absolutely. But sitting in that place of like victimhood or like I'm just a bad person, like that's a cop out. Like don't lean into that. Don't lean into you're a bad person and that's that. Do the uncomfortable work and unpack, why did you cheat? What could you have done differently? What went wrong in that relationship? Because we talk about how every relationship is a lesson or multiple lessons. I think if you're trying to learn and grow from it, that is the only positive that can come out of making a choice like cheating, because it's pretty rough. It's a rough thing to do to someone. And, you know, I'm never going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, but like, you know, it was their fault because they were bad to me and I was pushed to, you know, like at the end of the day, you never, you hadn't developed the skill to be able to like have conflict or like have a direct conversation and be comfortable with
or, you know, walk away from something. There's a lot of like self-development there that hasn't been like cultivated. Yeah. So that's kind of that missing piece. That's where like, cause at this point in my life, I can't imagine ever getting tangled up in something like that again. The drama. Because it doesn't feel like, it just doesn't feel like an option or a solution.
It's just not who we are.
Right. Because I've learned now to be able to just be direct and have like direct and open conversations and be really honest.
Well, and here's an example I just thought of like, you know, I have cheated before, you've cheated before, and I think we both have really worked hard to take the lessons from that and become better people. But let's use like, not to put him on blast, but nobody knows him. Like my father is a serial cheater. He has cheated in every relationship he's ever been in multiple times and you know, when you look at like my mother versus like the woman he's married to now, who's my like stepmother growing up, completely different women. And for me, I think that when you've been doing it for so many decades with completely different people, and both times like you made this choice to get married and didn't self-reflect and maybe recognize that you have trauma from your family, from religion, from all these things, that maybe you're not in a place to get married, choose to do that and not communicate with your partners and do like such heavy damage to both women that he was with. Like, that is where I think at that point, it's like, okay, maybe you need to just remove yourself from situations and unpack whatever is going through. And like, that's when I feel like cheating over and over and over again is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What are you doing at that point?
Well, it's avoidance.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're saying, it's like the inability to have, conversations about what you are wanting.
Right.
And I think maybe in that situation, maybe there is like some kind of like fetish going on there. Like,
well,
maybe,
that's what, yeah, like there is that, like there's a kink,
yeah,
almost.
I think so. There's something about like the secret part of it and all that. But,
because cheating is layered, like we said.
Yeah.
Right. Like there are so many circumstances that I feel like we can't touch on, but you know, it's so hard because you and I think have similar experiences with like how we feel about cheating, that it's like, there are obviously other circumstances, other people out there that cheating is so layered and complicated. Like we can't speak to all of them. Like we're just speaking to,
and to be on the receiving end of it too. Like when your partner cheats on you, it's very disorienting and it feels really like, because, you know, in a relationship, in most intimate relationships, you know, like what the other person's doing for pretty much most hours of the day.
Yeah,
and
totally.
like you believe them and all these things, right? So then to find out that like X amount of time ago or you know, to discover something like this is like, it is so jarring and disorienting and like disruptive to everything that you like held to be true.
Right.
And so when you're acting in, you know, like you're being honest and you're sharing and to whatever extent, and then you find out that that's not reciprocated.
Yeah.
And that not only that, but they're interested in someone else and then have gone so far as to become involved. That is like, that's an awful feeling. It's a really terrible feeling. But then the thing is though, I think like when someone cheats on you, it's really, it's not about you that much. Just like I know when I've cheated on someone, it wasn't really about them. It was about me not being able to leave them.
Right. No, absolutely. That I completely agree with. I think it's yes, I wasn't able to leave. And I think that's completely on me. I think I had really unique circumstances where I also had a bit of like, fuck you. You hurt me first. And that is a different layer of unacceptable that I can't even, I mean, I was younger. It was a different time in my life, but I think that, yeah, it's mostly, it's not about the specific person. I think we've talked about this before, that nobody goes out of their way to be like, you pissed me off, I'm going to go cheat on you. Like nobody does that. Like nobody like goes out of their way to intentionally hurt the person. It's more like seeking out whatever it is they're missing in someone else when someone cheats.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the most common driver. I think there's
other reasons. Oh my God.
I think, well, no, I was just going to say, I think there are some people who literally would say, fuck you, I'm going to go cheat on you.
That's crazy.
There's stuff to be healed there for sure.
There is stuff. Yeah. Do you think though that there's ever let me ask you this, like hot question. There's no right or wrong answer. Do you think that there's ever a justifiable reason to cheat?
I mean, no, because you can have empathy and understand where they came from and recognize the pain that the person who did cheat is dealing with.
Yeah.
But that still will never to me like be the answer or the solution, because cheating actually never gets to the core of it. It's just the quick fix.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. It's a Band-Aid.
Yeah, it's a Band-Aid. It's just like, it's just quelling what is wrong right now, but it's not, and it doesn't have really any longevity. And also I will say though that there are people who like, they cheat in the relationship that they're in and end up staying in the new relationship that they like the person that they were cheating with. Does that make sense? And that becomes like their new long-term relationship.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many.
That I'm not saying that's like that your relationship is bad. I'm just saying that, like, I mean, out of respect for yourself and for the other person, we could have like had the conversation before. And I'm thinking even actually to conversations that I've had with like people, it's like, it's not always that simple.
Right.
But I think ultimately it comes down to like not feeling like you can be direct and being afraid of what the other person's going to say or do.
Right. And like all the other circumstances surrounding you that are making you not want to be honest.
Yeah. And it's like, I think even when you're confronted, like, did you cheat? Or like, I heard this, or so-and-so told me that I found this receipt or whatever.
Yeah.
First inclination is to lie about it.
Always.
It's like you're still in that self-protective mode.
Well, and cheating is taboo. Cheating is like, I'm sorry, but like, especially when I want to like circle back to like, part of what makes cheating so taboo is how it's portrayed in the media, and also being a woman who has cheated. I just feel like there is a whole other layer of complexities if you are the woman cheating.
Yeah, because men get the excuse of boys will be boys. They have so much testosterone they can't control themselves.
Yeah.
And it's just not fucking true.
Yeah, apparently only boys are allowed to be horny, and they're so horny they can't keep it in their pants, and like women just need to understand that.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? And then it's normalized. Like we're so used to it that it's like, well, that's okay because like, you know, like men just hold a lot of power. And so the idea of women being audacious enough to cheat is just unimaginable.
Well, because it's like it is like a self-preserving thing, right?
Yeah.
You're like out to like have your needs met. And I think it's more appropriate for a man to have his needs met. That's more respected, where like women's needs are dismissed.
Well, and it's that puritanical, like women are supposed to be pure. Women can't cheat because we're pure. We're not allowed to be sexual. We're not allowed to like, you know, do all of these things and have the same drive that men do, even though I do think cheating comes from not like a sex drive thing. It comes from
an
intimacy thing and a lack thereof. But, you know, for some, it is a bit sexist that when a woman cheats, she's a slut.
Yeah.
She's a whore.
Yeah.
You know, I've watched so many movies where a woman cheats and like somehow that makes it okay to show like a man like honestly getting like physically abusive with her over it, or like, you know, throwing her out in the streets, and that level of betrayal. I understand feeling that way, but it's never, but like when a man does it, he just like begs for forgiveness, and it seems like, and I'm talking in movies, by the way, this is like more media portrayal, but it's just a lot more tolerated. Or like, even if you think about porn, there's a whole porn category of like man cheating with whoever. And there's like thousands upon thousands of videos of that. But like a woman, like I think I would bet all of the money in my pocket that if I were to go on Pornhub right now and look up, you know, like women having affair on man, it would be way more limited because it's more normalized for a man to cheat. And I'm not really sure why that is.
I wonder if it would be the reverse, because porn tends to be more taboo. So sometimes the inverse is true. Porn wise? No.
Maybe.
Maybe there's like the less normalized, but I think that I think what you're saying, and I agree, is like there's like that internalized misogyny where it's kind of not glorified. I don't think that's true, but it's like tolerated or expected sometimes. Like it's just like a guy cheats and it's like, oh, well, what do you expect? Yeah. She wasn't putting out.
Exactly. But then when a woman does it, like we're sluts and whores.
Yeah.
And like it's just a whole different level of shame. And I think, you know, in my like cheating experiences, like especially my last relationship, I mean, he full blown cheated on me and I caught him, and it was like such an earth shattering event. And then I take him back, which is my mistake. That's on me. I should not have done that. And that was a moment of ignorance. But I met someone else, and I felt so fucking guilty and I felt like a slut. Like I was like, here I am in my like long-term relationship and we're trying to make it work and he's trying to do better. And like I meet someone else and I'm such a piece of shit. And it's like, hold the fuck on.
Yeah.
It doesn't make what I did okay. But like, I just think it's so unfair that we as women are held to different standards. And even like I've been around other women who have talked about women who have cheated and like even women attack women for cheating more than when men cheat.
Oh yeah. Like
it's
I've
crazy.
heard people say like, you know, it's funny, like, who is it? There's like some singer and it's like he cheated on his wife, but him like with his now wife and they've been together for like 25 years.
Wow.
So it's like, I'm still not saying that the cheating is justified.
No,
right?
but like clearly
but like
something
that's kind of what I'm saying. Like
yeah.
where it's like sometimes you just meet someone and you're not supposed to like the timing is just not what you would choose.
You
right?
don't have a fairy tale start. You know?
Yeah, right. But like I've heard people say like, oh, I don't like him because he cheated on his wife. But then I've also heard people like justify him cheating, like, oh, I mean, they're still together. Like, it's like he cheated on her. Yeah. But like, look, they're still together.
Right.
So it's like, I see both sides. Like, it's like people advocating for like, or dismissing the affair.
Yeah.
Because he's like still with this person and because he can get off with like kind of
totally
without punishment because he's a guy.
Well, and think about it this way. The term homewrecker is only applied for women.
True.
What the fuck is that?
But it's the homewrecker is the woman that he cheats with. It's not about the guy, but she's the one who wrecked the home.
Exactly. Why isn't it the guy that fucking wrecked her relationship when he had an affair as well? Yeah. And if he's married too, he broke up his family. Yeah. So like, again, women can absolutely be homewreckers. Women absolutely have affairs. Women absolutely cheat. But it's crazy to me that like women have to feel this whole other level of shame because we have to deal with being slut shamed through everything that we do.
Yo,
it's crazy. Not to get on a tangent about sexism, but it's just interesting with cheating how, you know, men can kind of, it's that boys will be boys and then women are sluts and whores. And it's like, we're all humans that are striving for like physical and emotional intimacy. And it's not about horniness. It's about lacking something in a romantic relationship. And all of us, like, I think I want to wrap it up a little bit by saying, if you like, where I've struggled so much with relationships is I never want to end them out of like a lack of self-worth until recently, but also feeling like a relationship coming to an end is a failure. It feels like a failure. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And it's like, but we are in relationships looking for, you know, whatever that may be, love, monogamy, support, a family, whatever. And we're trying on these different hats, trying to find the one that fits right. And more than likely, every relationship that you're in is going to fail at one point or another. So like, instead of like feeling so ashamed about that you don't leave a relationship to the point of cheating or being like disloyal to your partner, I think for me, I'm really trying to look at relationships as like, these are teaching moments. These are me like allowing people into my life and learning from them and seeing if they are the right fit or how I need to adjust things so I know what to look for going forward, you know. But it's when you just stay in a relationship that cheating is more likely to happen, I guess.
Yeah. And I think like kind of my thoughts too are like that idea of like everything you want is on the other side of fear. Yeah. Right. And so it really just coming down to being like too afraid to leave this because of the reasons we talked about, the community part, the stability part, and like the feeling like a failure, like you don't want all those things, but like attached to you. But what's ironic is that when you decide to cheat as the answer or the fix, it actually makes everything so much worse. Like you lose all those things tenfold and you walk away with no dignity left. Right.
It's when you do the quick fixes of anything. It's just like anything in life. Yeah. If you don't get down into the root of the wart and dig it out, it's going to keep coming back worse and worse and worse. Do not put a Band-Aid on it. Do not clip the top off the wart. Just fucking get to the root and solve the problem immediately instead of these like quick fixes that are only going to make things spiral out of control more.
Correct.
You know? Not to justify cheating, but like that really, to avoid cheating, it really is about having the emotional intelligence to check in with yourself and your partner.
Yeah. And I think it's less about villainizing and blaming the person who does cheat and trying to like understand what is failing in the relationship.
Right. And if the relationship is failing overall, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's not like everybody here is a teacher, right?
Yeah.
So that relationship, like some relationships, and this goes for friendships too, but like not everything is meant to be around for your entire story. Like some of them are just a chapter. Some people are just here for a season.
Yeah.
And you're here to learn something from it. So we need to stop like treating everybody like they're supposed to be in our story forever.
Like they're forever.
Yeah.
Like stop grasping at straws and doing things. Like in doing
there's
that,
value in someone
letting
who's
go.
just here for a season. And like there's so much to be learned from letting go. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's a good place to wrap up.
I love it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Well, that was beautiful.
That was cheating.
Oh my gosh.
Cheaters. Just
kidding.
kidding. Thanks, guys.
We'll talk to you next time. Bye.
One last thing before you go. There is no us without you. Go like and subscribe to our show on your favorite streaming service and give us a follow on all socials at Let's Get Taboo. Chat with y'all next time. Okay, that was better.
Okay. That was much better.
That was much better.
We love. Oh, that's not what I tried to do. Okay, so next one. I'm gonna stand up for a second. My hips start to hurt so bad.
No, same. Oh, shit. Oh, she's a big.
Sorry, Bolly. That didn't mean to scare you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, 49 minutes. That was great.
That was great. We wrapped it up. That felt clean. That